talk about despite how bad the on-field action was.
Well, the NFL is taking a page out of the NBA's book, and they're playing up the storylines. They're playing up the drama. They're playing up the characters within, and I think that is going to do well as the NFL continues to steamroll every other sport. Like, not only do you have coaches getting fired, not only do you have, it seems like in New England, a coach after 1 year not just getting fired, but his heir apparent is like public knowledge. It's not even rumors. Like, we all know who's getting hired in New England now.
Oh, Mikey V.
Yeah, Mike Vrabel.
Belichick product.
And it's funny, like, you go from Belichick to Jerod Mayo, you give him 1 year, and then you're like, oh, we got to change it up. We got to try something different. How about we go get Mike Vrabel? Like, what's the difference between Jerod Mayo and Mike Vrabel outside of Vrabel's actually had a head coaching job before and has proven himself, whereas Mayo got 1 year?
Yeah, I don't even know if I can judge Jerod Mayo on 1 year.
You can't. With that roster, you absolutely – it's
not at all. And it's almost
laughable.
like the chicken or the egg situation. There were rumblings and mumblings about Mayo's firing before yesterday's win over the Bills. So was yesterday's win over the Bills kind of a two birds up to the organization saying, how'd you like the number 1 pick? Well, now you don't have it anymore. You're stuck with number 4.
And I'm glad he did so. I'm sure he kind of had an inkling that they were going to make that move, especially because it happened so fast. I don't even know if Mayo made it back home before the news was out that he was fired. But I will say this about Jerod Mayo and the New England Patriots. We were having the conversation and the debate about whether or not the Patriot Way was Bill Belichick. Was it Tom Brady? Was it the organization? Was it Robert Kraft, right? Because he also came right in before the whole Belichick and Brady thing started in the early 2000s. And I can say now unequivocally, whether you believe it was Brady or Belichick, I know damn well it wasn't Robert Kraft.
Really?
It just wasn't. There's no way. There's no way it's you if you're the ones that pulled the strings and made that decision to not only have faith in Jerod Mayo, who, again, this is not an outside candidate. This is somebody who played for the organization. This is somebody who was an assistant coach in that locker room for multiple years and then interviewed for the job, and you literally ushered Bill Belichick out early. Remember, like, that was a part of it. He made the call that, no, Bill, your time is done. Your heir apparent is Jerod Mayo. We're going to go with him. If you make that decision and you feel like you are that incorrect that quickly, either one of two things happened. Either you never planned on actually giving Jerod Mayo a full chance at this job because you always wanted maybe just one down year as you got things, right and together for a guy like Vrabel, who was nobody still has explained to me why the Titans fired Mike Vrabel last year. Still haven't figured that out.
Right.
So either you always knew you were going to be going this route and firing Jerod Mayo, and you pulled what the Texans pulled with David Culley and with Lovie Smith, and this is a down year. Let's go hire a brother, make it look good, put him in a situation where he cannot succeed, and then blame him for it. Either he did that, or you are terrible at being able to decipher whether or not a person is going to be good for that job. He got one season with a bad roster. They won 4 games, which is exactly what I told you the Patriots would do this year. I said Drake May's going to have flashes. They won 4 games, probably one that they shouldn't. They did exactly that, and somehow he took all of that, and minutes after they won that game, fired Jerod Mayo. That's just as disingenuous in its very sense. There's no way you can tell me it's not one of those two things. There's nothing that he learned Sunday should have changed his mind on whether or not Jerod Mayo should have been the head coach.
Not to go too deep into WEEI Boston Sports Talk Radio, but for your previous point, how you say that it's either Belichick, Brady, the combination of the two, and not Kraft, I think that's wrong. I think that's incorrect because I don't think you can use today's failures to discount yesterday's successes. I think that two things can be true. Kraft is failing utterly and ultimately right now, but I think that without the ownership of the Patriots during their dynasty, there's no way that they hold on to Brady and Belichick and make them glue together as well as they did for those 2 decades.
He was the least common denominator. When it came, the success of the Patriots, the Patriot Way, the culture that they set there for 2+ decades that resulted in 6 championships and them being the Death Star that hung over the NFL, it had way, way, way more to do with Bill Belichick, way more to do with what Tom Brady was able to do on the field and as a leader in that locker room than like Bob Kraft's decision making. You know, like, this is poor decision making. Either you're a terrible evaluator of talent, or I don't know what the other side of it is, or you just were disingenuous and maybe Jerod Mayo was in on it as well. I don't know what that could be, but there's no way that a guy like that, like this, you don't see the Steelers doing something like that. That's a well-run organization where I can say I credit the culture established from even beyond Mike Tomlin for it. I can't say the same thing about Robert Kraft because what he's done before and after Brady and Belichick has not been good. It's looked like if the Jaguars pulled what he just did, we would be criticizing it and making fun of it.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say because you kind of take all three pieces and you have a dynasty. You take away one piece, Tom Brady, and you have a team scraping by with Mac Jones really looking bad. You take away Belichick, and now you have the most dysfunctional this organization has looked in the past 30 years.
But Vrabel wouldn't have won more than 4 games with that Patriots roster.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. No one would win many games with that roster.
Nobody was going to win with it, so there's no way that you can tell me that you actually believe Vrabel's better for the job than Jerod Mayo today, unless you already thought that last year, but for some odd reason you made the wrong decision. Again, either way, if you hire a head football coach, this goes for any sport, basketball, hockey, college football, if you hire a coach and you fire them after just one season, you are the problem. The onus is on you. You made a poor hire. You're a poor judgment of talent. There's no way that what Jerod Mayo showed you in year one, outside of a couple of times where he might have spoken out of turn to the press, called his team soft, little things you can easily get over. There's nothing that you can tell me about what he did this year with the Patriots that would allow me to say, oh, well, yeah, you're justified in firing him after 1 year with that crappy-ass roster. It's just his bad process, and it's not the Patriot way. That's not the actions and the motions of a credible franchise and a good organization. That's like some slapstick stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of egg on the face. They kind of look like one of the most foolish organizations today. And maybe this works out.
First pick.
Maybe this works out, and it'll help by having a top 5 pick.
Well,
maybe
you know what?
Next season the Patriots win 7 games and have a bright future. Who knows?
They would have did the same thing with Jerod Mayo. That's my only point. So what I'll say is this too. Though that it feels like if you're a Patriots fan, it is a dark and maybe slightly depressing, Black Monday because you lose your head coach. You don't know what's next, but you kind of do know what's next. So you're probably having a pretty good Black Monday because it seems like people out of Foxborough, people out of New England wanted Jerod Mayo gone before he was even announced as the head coach. That's their prerogative. I can tell you this, as bad as it seemed for them, it's absolutely worse for one of their divisional rivals, and that is the Miami Dolphins. I love the sound effect. Of all of the teams right now in the National Football League, all 32 of them, the one that is suffering the deepest, the darkest Black Monday is the Miami Dolphins, who did not fire a coach, but it sounds like they're about to have to hire a new wide receiver one. Here's Tyreek Hill following the 32-20 loss against the New York Jets as the Dolphins were eliminated from the playoffs before they even finished that game because of the Chiefs getting trampled by the Broncos. Here's Tyreek Hill on his future in South Florida.
Like I said, man, I just got to do what's best for me and my